Welcome to AskPsychSessions, where we ask some of the best teachers we know questions from you, our audience. If you would like to submit a question, please go to bit.ly/AskPsychSessions. That's bit.ly/AskPsychSessions. All lowercase, all one word. And here's our next question.
Today, I am going a little off script. Rather than asking a question that one of you submitted to us, I'm asking a question for which I have personal interest. So today we're going to hear from Dr. Erika Knowles. She's an assistant professor of psychology at the Berklee College of Music. So welcome, Erika, and thanks for joining us.
Great. Thank you for having me.
So I really love my job. I love teaching. I love students. But the thing that I procrastinate the most and like the least of my job is grading. And in some chatting with you, it sounded like you had shifted some of your grading to make it a little bit less painful. And so I would like to hear about it, and I bet our listeners would too. Would you mind sharing what you're up to?
Of course. So I had the same feeling as you did. I was not grading assignments. I was procrastinating to the last minute. And I think the main reason I was doing it is that I felt there was just too much subjectivity. So when I was grading an exam, you get to one, and you'd be like, that one was good. And then you connect and it's like, oh, that's really what I wanted. And then how much time do I spend going back and regrading things? So I had ran into this idea of specifications grading. In like 2015, I went to a faculty development conference. And this is a book by Linda Nielsen. And the book has a beautiful red cover. So I just happened to pick it up by accident. Just looking around, and I read the back and I was like, oh, this might be what I'm looking for to change my grading. So I finally implemented it after a couple years. I was a new professor. I wasn't really quite sure about what I wanted in the class. But this fall, I took the plunge and actually made my abnormal psychology class a full specifications grading course. The fun of it. So basically what that looks like is there are no grades given until the end of the semester. So they don't get a letter grade until their final grade, which is a little different. And they take some time to get used to that. But it has made some really good changes, I think, in my classroom, both for me and for my students.
So for those of us that haven't read the book, what does it mean to do specifications grading? And how do you, I'm guessing you also have to sort of set students up for this, because I honestly take the opposite approach. I start having grades in from, the second day of class. There's a chapter quiz due on the first part of the book for research methods. And then we have a journal article due on the second meeting, so that they're just working right from the get-go. So can you walk me through that different, this sounds like quite a different framework.
Yeah. So are my students. They're working from day one. It's just how they're working from day one that changed. So this is kind of an alternative grading approach. So students' work is really graded on whether or not they meet specifications for each assignment. So really, there's just these criteria that are set up. So if all areas are satisfied, every single one of those criteria, they would get a satisfactory on that assignment. If not, they get an unsatisfactory on that assignment. So it's not necessarily like a new idea. There's been a lot of kind of iterations of this standards-based grading or skills-based grading. So like contract grading is an example of this. But it's a little bit more flexible in its use. Students do not have to say they're going to get an A in your class. But they do know what each thing is graded on and what they have to do to achieve a grade in the class. So everything is pass-fail all the way through until the end of the semester where they achieve a grade. So it's basically the specs, I think of them as like a one-level rubric. So it's essentially the rubric that would be your like good level. So not your excellent, but your good level. So kind of what a B would be on a paper or an assignment. So you're kind of looking that they can just do the assignment well, and then you kind of move on from there. So some students can do it, and some students aren't able to, at least on the first try. So for like my online assignments, they have to like submit everything on time. They have to answer all the questions and give me an example if I ask for it. And they have to demonstrate some sort of like sound academic effort, complete minimal typos, attention to detail. And if they do all those things, they get a satisfactory on that assignment. And if not, they get an unsatisfactory with potential for revision, which I like about this system. They get to revise, which is good. And then everything's basically bundled into assignments to get a specific end goal grade. So if they want an A, they have a certain number of assignments they have to do and a certain kind of assignments they have to do at a satisfactory level. And a B set up the same way, a C set up the same way. So they can look, I literally give them a checklist. They can look at the checklist, and if they want to see, they have to do 7 assignments at a satisfactory level, plus the first component of the project, plus answer 2 basic questions on the exam. So they know exactly what work they have to do this semester at that level, and then they can make the decision if they want to work harder or if this is not a priority for them.
And did you find that sort of changed the in-class dynamics at all? How students, did it seem like it made them less stressed and therefore they were more engaged in class? Did it cut back on the number of emails you were getting?
Yeah, so it took them a minute to get it. I'm not going to lie, because they've been doing grades forever. So having this kind of setup, I think, scared them for a minute. And then I kind of pulled them at the end of the semester, and everyone ended up saying that they loved the organization. They loved knowing what they had to do, that they knew what their grade was based on. They weren't like guessing at the end of the semester that they were getting a B, because they could look on their sheet and it says it's very self-explanatory. And the other thing they really liked was the feedback they got. So because everything is graded with a checklist, if you didn't get one of the criteria, you knew exactly what went wrong in that paper. So when you had to do another assignment like that, you knew what you had to fix. So they really liked the clear feedback. Most of them said it did decrease their stress level because they didn't have to worry at the end of the semester if they've done enough, or if they had to do that final paper at the same level. Some students didn't like the idea of the unsatisfactory, that idea of not getting all the criteria felt to them like a failure. And this class in particular has some very high achieving students in them that always get A's. So I think that flustered them a little bit. But I didn't get any complaints about grades. Not one complaint this semester, which is amazing, because there was no kind of room for argument, because it was pretty obvious, I think, that they didn't achieve a criteria when I explained or made a comment about it. And the work was much better. So the best part for me is you only have to write a final paper if you want an A in the class. So I only got A and B papers. I didn't get anything below that, which was amazing.
Oh, that sounds right. Like everyone is happier. And if it's not a course where the paper is essential to one of the learning goals, then right. That's that idea of disposable assignments that I heard about at NITOP. And if you were the person that gave that presentation, I apologize for forgetting who you were, but I remember the concept.
Right. And that's the idea. There's no you have to really work as a professor to align all of the things with your course objectives. So now your course objectives actually have meaning. So when you say a student is getting a D, they know exactly what they achieved in your class, rather than thinking, oh, I passed that class, I could do everything. So for a D, they really only get objective 1 on my syllabus. If they get an A, they get all 6. And every single assignment is aligned with those objectives, so they know what they're doing.
So, I mean, this sounds great. So what would be a reason, I guess, not to do it? Like, what is the secret for why I shouldn't spend the summer realigning into a spec world?
I don't know if I have a good reason not to. I think there are a couple challenges that I had with it. The biggest one was actually calculating final grades at the end. Linda Nielsen's book kind of makes it feel like they're all going to fall into the bundles they choose. So if they're working on an A student will just do all of the A things, and maybe they'll have like 1 or 2 in the B, so they get an A minus. But that was not the case. Students were kind of all over the place. So I ended up having to come up with kind of a system to assign final grades, which Now that I have it, it'll be totally fine. But at that point of putting in final grades, I was like, oh no, I think I've made a mistake. But the rest of it, I think, was so good that I decided to stick with it through that and fix it for myself. The other thing I think would be challenging if you don't know your class well, like if you're teaching the class for the first time, I think it's hard to do specs grading if you don't have clear expectations of what a student can do in your class or what the challenge level is. This is my 5th year teaching this course at Berklee, so I had a really good idea about what a D student typically is achieving in my class and what an A student usually looks like. As far as what work they can handle. And I think that made it a lot easier to break it into these bundles with assignments, rather than, I think, if you don't quite know or expect everything in your class, it could be a little bit trickier to organize things. But if you have a clear syllabus with good objectives, I think it's fairly easy to transfer over.
Well, that is great. I don't have any other questions, so thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
To give this a whirl on those classes that I've been teaching for, some of them 12 or 14 years. So take care, Erica. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Marianne.